Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're excited to walk you through some of the fundamentals of Chinese genealogy research, as well as some practical DIY tools that you can use on the My China Roots platform. And we hope that instead of feeling lost in translation, that this workshop will prepare you to start tracing your own Chinese ancestors like a pro. Joining us today from Beijing is Huihan, the founder of My China Roots, as well as Wai-Kwan, who is one of our veteran researchers in Guangzhou. So thank you both for joining us. I'm going to pass it on to you to take it away and show us how we can research our ancestry.
Great. Thanks, Chrislyn, and hi, everybody. It's really wonderful to be here together with you all. My name is Huihan. I'm based in Beijing. I was actually born and raised in Holland, in the Netherlands. And growing up, I was always interested in family history. But my parents were from Indonesia. And even though they were saying we were Chinese and were making quite a point of us being Chinese, I was always thinking, well, what does it mean to be Chinese if we don't really speak any Chinese? If maybe every now and then we eat noodles and we have Chinese sounding names. Is that really all there is to it? Because I didn't know anything about China growing up. I did love the stories about Indonesia, so I just got more and more into digging into our family history just out of curiosity. And it was in my mid-20s that I figured, okay, I just want to go to China, to this mysterious, distant country and see what it's like. And that was about 18 years ago, and I'm still here in Beijing and founded My China Roots about 10 years ago, but more about that later. Wai-Kwan, how about you?
Yeah, so hi everyone. So nice to be here with you all. So as you can see, my first name is Wai-Kwan and my family name is Chen. So I believe you are already able to tell from the spelling, Chan, that I'm a Cantonese. Yeah, I'm born and raised in Guangzhou, formerly known as Canton City. I seldom question about my cultural identity of being a Cantonese, and my family enjoys yum cha, eating dim sum, and I listen to Canton pop, Hong Kong pop music, and watch Hong Kong soap opera as I grew up. So although when I was a kid, my relatives on my father's side always told me that I am a Hakka. So when I look back on this, it's kind of funny that they speak in standard Cantonese to remind me that I'm a Hakka person. So when do I begin to realize that I'm also a part of the Hakka community? It was in 2019. So as you can see from the picture, I went back to my ancestral place in Moyan, Meizhou. So I stood in front of my ancestral house, Fengfo Lao, and my grandmother's one, Feng Zhentao. So I do not know how to write those characters before I went back to my ancestral house. But when I stood there, I found a feeling of like reconnection and closure. So yeah, that's a very beautiful experience and journey. So good luck to everyone today, and I hope today's workshop can inspire you to know more about your roots. And yeah, we are here to help.
Thanks, Wai-Kwan. So a couple of quick words about what we do. There are two key pillars to My China Roots in terms of how we help people. On the offline side of things, what we do, we have a group of researchers, historians, anthropologists, sociologists in southern China. Wai-Kwan is one of them. And what we do is we actually visit villages, we conduct interviews, record oral histories, we organize trips, and do very hands-on, on-the-ground detective work. Now, the online side of things, that's really for people to do it themselves, at least at the very beginning. So people can start by putting in the name of their migrating ancestor, and from there basically search what records are there in our database. Roots tracing in general really involves many different elements. Some are more emotional, some are more intellectual, like the discovery element. Some are more spiritual. And what we've tried to do is to divide these elements over 5 separate workshops in this month of May. This is the 4th, and the first workshop was really a warm welcome and getting everyone's feet wet. The second workshop was really about the experience of traveling back to your ancestral village, what that's like. The third was, well, how does one actually start, and how does one get traces from within the family? That was last week. And today we are going to have a talk about how you can actually then start. So armed with the information that you can get from your family, what can you then do yourself through case studies? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to impersonate somebody else, sort of impersonate myself 20 years ago when I started my own root trip. But for this particular case study, let's assume my name is Edward Wong. I'm 40 years old, a couple years younger than I actually am. I was born and raised in California. I don't speak or read Chinese. So that's just my fictional personality for a second. All I know is that my great grandfather was the one who came over from China to the US, and his name was Sam Wong. He passed away in 1948 and he lived in LA. That's really all I know.
So I'm just me. I'm Chen Wai-Kwan, my China Roots researcher. And all right, Edward, that might just be enough to start. Let's go to our website first. Yeah, www.mychinaroots.com. And you can see the button, search for research. Yeah, just hit that. And so what we'll do first is try to find out the Chinese character of your last name, Wong. If we are able to discover how to spell your great-grandfather's name in both letters and Chinese characters, we'll be able to cast a much wider family history research net. So we search the result for Wong. And when people like your great-grandfather move overseas, the way his family name would be written out was based on a combination between how your great-grandfather pronounced it, so that's his Chinese dialect, and how, for instance, an immigration official heard it, and this was largely determined by the language spoken in the country of settlement. In your case, that's English.
Well, I think he spoke Cantonese, that's what I've been told, and he obviously arrived in the US. So, well, hang on. I actually do recognize this top character, and meaning yellow to fall through. Yes, I actually remember my parents saying that our surname means something like yellow. So, yeah, so basically this must be the character of my surname. That's cool. I found it. Okay.
Wow. Yes, you can start your real search. So get to the main search page and type in the name Sam Wong.
Okay. Oh, 950 results, all with the name Sam Wong. So how do I actually know which of these records are about my grandfather, my great-grandfather, Sam Wong? I see, okay, immigration files, identity certificates, tombstones, a lot of different documents, and they're all for different Sam Wongs. And here at the bottom, it actually says there could be more. Okay, if I do full text collection, press that. Okay, 450 more records. These records actually seem different from the one on the previous page. Historical annals, tupu, student directories. Okay, so Wai-Kwan, what is the difference between full text and indexed records?
Yeah, so for the index records, they are the records have been manually transcribed by one of our indexes. Full text result means that the record has been transcribed by a computer through our OCR system, the optical character recognition technology. The indexing accuracy of a computer's full text result is still lower than a human indexer, especially when it comes to handwritten traditional Chinese characters. But in the future, with technology continuously improving, all our records will have index records accuracy levels.
Right, so I'm going to go with indexed then. So how do I narrow down the search? Filtering with US, obviously. Collections. Okay, so I see there are a lot of different collections, a lot of different records. Well, I'm interested to see any record really that has direct info about my grandfather, whether it's an alien case file, a cemetery record, or an identity certificate. On the other hand, I'd also really like to know about where in China my family is from and what I can still find about our pre-migration history back in China.
Well, in that case, your best bet is to start with the cemetery records. As a matter of fact, tombstones are often an ideal place to start because they typically list the name of the deceased in letters and in Chinese characters. Finding the first name in Chinese characters is very important because most of all the resources about your family's history in China will be written in Chinese. And secondly, tombstones often contain the name of the ancestral place or place of heritage in China. This is crucial because in contrast to the West, where family history information was mostly kept by public institutions like the church and the state, while in China, the most important family-related documentation was all kept by the wider family, or we say the clan, and inside the home village of the clan. And last but not least, now there's yet another reason why cemetery records are important. If your migrating ancestor settled in the US as a paper son, then the tombstone may well list his true birth name. Since the last 19th century, for a period of over 60 years, the US refused entry to Chinese immigrants, and the only way for most Chinese to come to the US was through a false identity, aka like a paper son.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of paper sons. That's fascinating. Okay, so yeah, I don't recall my family ever talking about, my great grandfather being a paper son, but still, I need to go to the cemetery records. So, okay, so birth years are listed. I filtered by Huang, and he was a male. So 8 tombstones. Let me click a few because I don't actually know his birth year. I know his death year. Death year here is 2006. No, that's not it. Let's see another one. Death year. Death year here is 1981. No, that's not it. That's maximum 8. Can't be that bad. Yeah. Hey, 1948. So 1948 was the death date of my Sam Wong. And he lived in LA. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Wow.
Wow. So this is it then, right? I found my great grandfather's tombstone.
Wow, congrats. I think this is it. And what especially cool is that here in the middle column, you can see his real name, Wang Guoqun. Yeah, so his name in Chinese characters, but that's not all. We can clearly read in the side columns. Here you can find his village, Sanshe village, Samse in Taishan, or we say Taishan County. That's in today's Guangdong province. Oh, you can see a map too.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I do remember now that my grandfather said we were from Toisan, but I never really knew what that actually meant or where it was.
Yeah, actually, you are into our own village database now. So Taishan calls itself the home of overseas Chinese, and with good reason. Until the 1980s, around half of all Chinese Americans came from Taishan or Toisan, together with its 3 neighboring counties of Sanwui, Haiping, and Yanping. The area is often referred to as Siyi or Siyap, meaning 4 counties. Today, Taishan is a city of 1 million people, similar to a city like San Jose. However, an estimated 1.3 million people with Taishanese family origins are living overseas in more than 90 countries across North America, Southeast Asia, Australia, and beyond. Every inhabitant in Taishan today will have at least one relative who left. And around 100 years ago, the disruption caused by several civil wars, uprisings, and natural disasters pushed thousands of Chinese to move abroad, looking for a way to make money for the family back home. And around 1910, when Wang's time, he would have traveled over the river to the port of Canton, Guangzhou. And from there, he might sail via Hong Kong, as you can see on the map, and going east, and he might sail to Angel Island on the west of the United States.
Wow, that's so cool. So what can I do now? Should I just do a search again and use the Chinese characters of his name, maybe? How about that?
Yeah, exactly. As you can see here, we find 41 potential records of your grandfather. Of course, not all of them are your grandfather, but we are a step ahead of you as our system that's filtered that out automatically for you.
Yeah, I can see here I can use filters again. So yeah, that's great because with the information that I found on the tombstone that I didn't know before, now I know that Sam Wong, my great-grandfather, was born in Sanshe village in Taishan County in Guangdong province, right? So let me filter first by China and Guangdong. Okay, 8 results, right? So now okay, second. Taishan. Okay. Hey, Taishan. Okay. So let's click it. What do we have here? A book, and it's called a zupu. So, what's a zupu?
Yeah, so actually, Edward, you found the holy grail of the Chinese ancestry. A Zupu, Zhokpo, or Jiapu, Gapo is a clan's genealogy book or pedigree. It is a privately compiled document written by the clan. Zupus were both keepsakes for future generations and a way to honor a clan's ancestors. It's very important to the Chinese people. They come in all shapes and sizes, from multi-volume collections to tattered sheets of paper stapled together. While their contents may vary, they typically include family trees going back several hundred, even thousands of years, an outline of the origins of the clan and its movements until settlement in the latest place of residence, descriptions of the success of prominent ancestors, clan rules and guidelines. And one more thing, very important, this is the generation poem. And this poem will teach the future generations like you how to name your children. And to view his name in the Zupu, you can go back and hit the button for examine matches.
Okay, so
Yeah,
wow.
and
Okay,
look.
so maybe his name is in there then.
Yeah, let's wait and see.
Okay.
Okay, zoom in.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't look like so. This is from two person's name. How about this one?
All right.
Okay. Oh, it's possible.
Yeah.
And you can
Yeah, you
see
think it's
from
him?
the above. Actually, you can use our translation tool to understand what they mean. Yeah, so these two mean the generation number.
All right.
And he's a
Yeah.
23rd generation. And it makes sense that he does not have any sons listed, as you can see, as he was the one who left the village. Sometimes families lost touch or had other reasons why new generations overseas weren't written in the Zupu. But as you can see from this very precious family tree, and actually you can follow the lines to find out the father and son relationship and beyond. And yeah, it's quite easy for you to read once you get the hang of it.
Oh, okay. So now,
Yeah, yes, you can also go to that site, family tree. Once you confirm the relationship, and also you can add your relatives you've already known onto this tree. And you can go to our library to add the pictures and documents and files about your family. And you can go to my records page to add the collection like the Zupus that you found on our website. So you can go back to here to check it.
so I can take the information from the Zupu with the help of those translation tools and then build my own family tree, right? And then I can just add pictures and records. Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks, Wai-Kwan. This has been, thank you so much.
And thank you, Edward.
Hi, everybody. I'm back to being my old self, Huihan, but just for a few seconds because I'm going to shift my identity again, and now we're going to do a second case study, and my name is going to be Dorothy. Dorothy Lam. I am 70 years old, was born and raised in the Bay Area, and what I know is that my maternal grandfather, his name was Tse Yuan. And I actually do have his name in Chinese characters. I'm aware of the focus on patrilineal in Chinese traditions, but I'm just interested to learn about my mom's dad because I know that he's a pastor and my religion is an important part of my identity. So, yeah, I never knew him. He died when I was only 1 year old.
Yeah, so hi, Dorothy. So I'm Wai-Kwan again. Let's just go to the website and search 在给允谢几元. Oh, not bad. 5 immediate.
Oh, yeah, there, I see. Okay. Wait, okay, Reverend, so what am I looking at here?
So as you can see, this is a record from YMCA. So around 150 years ago, back in 1872, Chinese American YMCA branches were set up to provide language, health, immigration, and education services to Chinese communities across the United States. So this book contains the Chinese YMCA's California membership logs from 1922 to 1924.
Roaring 20s. Okay, cool that you have background info about each type of record then. And I see Stockton Street. So that's where he lived, I guess. Or let's see on the map. Southern Street, San Francisco. Hey, hang on. Hey, I know that church. That's the church I've passed like 1,000 times. Oh wow, this is so cool. So I can't believe he was a pastor there. Right. Okay. So what other records are there? Let's go back and look. Let's look at the tombstone. Um, see. Yep. This also tombstone also means it says reverend, so that must be him. And yeah, he died when I was 1 or 2 years old, about 1954. Wow. Okay. So now I also know my grandmother's name is Poon Shi. Yeah, Poon Shi. Okay. Dates of birth: 1879, 1840.
Yeah, I see that too. Actually, what's interesting is that the Chinese characters on the tombstone mention your grandmother's birth name, while the Romanized form of the name mentions her married name. So her married name, as you can see, was indeed Zhe Punxi, but Punxi wasn't her real first name. Poon, P-O-O-N, was her family name at birth, and the reason we know that is because of the word she, S-H-E-E, here doesn't mean anything in itself, but it's a word that serves to indicate that Poon was your grandmother's maiden family name. That is why on historical records, women's names often contain the word she. So we can see here that her birth name was Poon Mei Tou, Tan Mei Tu. So another thing that's interesting to know is that the ancestral place is not mentioned at the top of your tombstone. But you may recall that in your previous identity as Edward Wong, the tombstone listed Sanshe in Taishan County. So in traditional agricultural China, a person's identity was intricately tied to their ancestors and their place of heritage. For many Chinese who converted to Christianity, their new link to God and religion often replaced ancestral home and the ancestral spirit.
Okay, well, all right. So that's actually a pity then when it comes down to doing family history research. So does this mean that there's no way for me to find out where in China my grandparents were from?
Not so fast to jump to that conclusion. Let's look at some of the other records. I see your grandfather appears on two membership lists of the CCBA. The Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association is also known as the Six Companies. It started in San Francisco in the 1850s, and its key purpose was to help Chinese immigrants from 8 districts of the Pearl River Delta in Guangdong relocate and travel to and from the US, return bodies back home of Chinese who had died, took care of the sick and poor, and provided legal and physical protection, especially during times of anti-Asian hate. It also communicated with local and federal governments on behalf of the Chinese communities. So the two membership lists, one from 1936 and from 1942, are pretty similar. Your grandparents are listed as members side by side here, together with their ages and their ancestral places in China. Yeah, so which are historical names for what today is called Nanhai in Guangzhou and Foshan, Guangdong. Yeah.
Nanhai. Okay, I want to know more about Nanhai, but I'd also love to see if there are more documents out there that can tell me about my grandfather's life in the US. So how about I use the Romanized form, his name, K-U-N-C instead, and search then. Let's see what happens. Right. Yeah. Okay. That's more results now. So okay, there's an immigration case file with same birth year as him. Ship the Malolo. So he arrived in 1929. So he must have been 55 when he arrived. But hang on. Wait. Didn't you just say there was a 1922 YMCA document, which was 7 years before 1929? So I guess that means that maybe he went back and forth from the US to China. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Just thinking. So imagine leaving during the Roaring Twenties, like that's a period known for economic prosperity in the US, and then coming back when the Wall Street crash happened and the Great Depression starts in '29. That's a bit of an anticlimax. Yeah, let's go back to the list. Scroll down. Okay, different name here. Keyamtse was born on a different date. So then there's another one. Kiyantse. The spelling is different, but the birthday is the same, so it's probably the same. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, so he arrived in Hawaii in 1910.
Mm.
Hawaii, what do you do there? So, okay,
Wow.
and this was also 1 year before the Qing dynasty ended, right? And Sun Yat-sen's revolution. Now I want to know more.
Wow, Dorothy, you know much about the Chinese history, it seems. So there is likely to be more information on the original immigration case files, which are at NARA, the US National Archives, yes, and which often contain an incredible wealth of information about the relevant immigrant, their life, their ancestral home, and their family. But unfortunately, you have to go to visit Nara in person to see the original document. But the good news is, though, that we are currently in talks with Nara about scanning their Chinese immigration case files, and we aim to have all immigration files fully digitized
Oh,
and searchable on our My China Roots site in the future. Also, another option here, when you go back to our website, yes, and you scroll down, and you can find Let's Talk. And you can fill in your information, so what you are interested in, and leave your comments there so we can see how can help. So we have a team of 8 Chinese genealogy researchers on the ground in Guangdong province and a wide network of freelancers in the US and around the world. If you like, we can make a trip to Nara for you and take pictures of the immigration files.
yeah, that sounds great because I'd like to know more. I'm even more curious now about my grandfather's life. But also, let's go back to Nanhai. So you mentioned he was from Nanhai in Foshan, right? I'm just wondering, did you think he became a Christian in the US or was he already one in China? Is that a place where a lot of Christians were from? And why did he come over to the US and why did he go to Hawaii? Yeah.
Yeah, Dorothy, lots of good questions. Our database did not show up with a Zupu, the family tree book, listing your grandfather's Chinese name at the moment. However, in this case, we have gained new information from the MCR database already, and here are some ideas on what you could do next, or if you prefer, what we could do together with you in the context of our custom services. So starting off, of course, there's Google and Baidu, the Chinese Google. So a simple search for your grandfather combined with a relevant keyword pretty quickly leads you to his listing in the 1940 US Census. While you currently have to go to a site like ancestry.com to see and search within the census, in the future, we will also have it on our MCR's platform. And next, you can do a search on Baidu. That's in Chinese. If you just input the word 谢几元再给允, your first link already contains a wealth of new info. So it appears I see Singapore. Wow, he lived in Singapore before he went to the US, and he contributed greatly to Sun Yat-sen's revolution, which overthrew thousands of years of imperial rule, and he became a government official even, a mayor in China right after the republic was founded. And so we see now that some online articles mention that your grandfather was from Panyu. Oh, so now Panyu is different from the information on the CCBA records, which said he was from Nanhai. So both Panyu and Nanhai are in Guangdong, but they are not exactly the same place. But they are very close.
Okay, but they're still different places. So how would so what do I do now to find out where he was actually from, Hanyu or Nanhai?
Yes, this brings us to the next step of field research to talk to the locals. So you could try to contact the Panyu and Nanhai Chaolian, the offices of overseas Chinese affairs, Chaolian, and the local government offices, etc., or have us reach out on your behalf. Also, since he was an official before, we can start searching like Shunde District Archives, Guangdong Provincial Archives, Guangzhou City Archives, and more. So help you to talk to the local offices to confirm the location and talk to the individuals and institutions to help you to trace the possible links that we can find out more for you.
So if I would want to do that all myself, how would I go about contacting all these offices that you mentioned? And what do I ask him? I mean, do I just go in and just ask him, hey, my grandfather was such and such, and if I have a Chinese speaking friend, and how do I approach them?
First, you need to find the contact information online, but that would be a little bit difficult because not all contact information is public. So we need to search online and to ask its superior offices to find out if we can reach out to the local village and more. So yeah, there will be some back and forth. And for example, if you talk to them, you might have the language barrier.
Are they usually willing to help in the first place? I mean, can one just pick up the phone and call them? And I mean, what's your experience there?
Yeah, so our experience with them that varies. Some very friendly and helpful. They can help us to find the individuals in the village, but sometimes, and in most of the cases, it's a little bit more complicated, and we even need to go to the village in person to talk to them because they prefer face-to-face communication, especially for the elderly. Yes, and we can also go through the family tree book to find if there's a name inside their book because they think the book is very precious. They are not willing to just take the pictures and send them to us. We need to go to the village in person to take pictures ourselves.
So you actually do that in person then, those trips?
Yeah, like I said, we have researchers here on the ground in Guangdong province.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Wai-Kwan. I mean, this has been really helpful. And I know a lot about my grandfather now. And
yeah,
I will stop being Dorothy, as much fun as that was, and I'll go back to being Huihan. I think the key things we've covered, we'd love to, being Huihan again, we'd love to turn it to the audience now and see if there are any questions, or we'd love to dig in more deeply into any things that we've discussed that you might be curious about. Also, because it's Asian Heritage Month, every listener today will get 15% off of any service that they would commission to My China Roots. But let me now hand it over to Chrislyn and thank everybody for listening.
Yes, thanks so much, Huihan and Wai-Kwan. That was really great identity shifting. And I mean, as your case studies illustrate wonderfully, it helps to have a sounding board to piece together all your clues. So we encourage you to get in touch with us for a completely free research assessment, just like what you just witnessed. And also, this coming Monday, we have a research lab community call where you are welcome to hop on a voice channel similar to this, and any clues, any questions you have, even any breakthroughs you found that you want to celebrate and share. We'd love to meet you then and do some research together in real time. So come by our research lab this Monday. At this time, the floor is open. If you'd like to ask a question to Huihan or Wai-Kwan about how to use these tools or do your own research. Okay, we have a question from Blossom. How long do you expect it will take to have NARA files digitized? Good question.
Oh, that's a great question. So NARA, as you probably know, has a lot of different branches. So there's no short answer to that, unfortunately. So we're now in talks with different branches at NARA. So for instance, San Francisco, but there are also ones in Seattle, in New York. In New York, we're also speaking to them. I mean, between 3 months and 3 to 5 years. So depending on the branch, and also we're discussing, of course, logistics with them now, like how many scanners and how many scanning machines can we put in the places where the archival material is saved. So it's going to be a staggered process.
All right, we have another question from Tel Yan. Are the staff you have in China the same people who work for the Overseas Affairs Office, or are they private parties? My husband and I tried to find his ancestral village 12 years ago with the help of the Overseas Affairs Office, of a person in Zhongshan, but no luck. I now know exactly where the village was, however, it was absorbed into the city.
Okay, so My China Roots, our team is private and completely independent from any government. So we're not part of any Chinese government. So Overseas Chinese Affairs Office is a government office. Neither are we part of any other government institute. We do, however, work with them, and we have good relations with them across southern China. So, like Wai-Kwan mentioned earlier, what we would do is we would contact, for instance, Overseas Chinese Affairs offices, but also local historians and other experts on the ground, in your case in Zhongshan, and we would then typically meet them. So we would go there from our office in Guangzhou and take a bus or a taxi to Zhongshan and then basically do our field research there. Unfortunately, it is indeed the case that because of China's high rate of urbanization and industrialization, that a lot of the villages where ancestors came from have been urbanized and industrialized. So often they have been absorbed into a city. Having said that, and of course I have no idea what your particular case is, but having said that, even if the general environment has been urbanized, it's still often the case that there are traces or little communities. We often see where a village has turned into an urban community, really, and there, seeing quite a few cases where it's literally 3 or 4 flats within an urbanized area where the majority of people still had like a same surname that was previously a village. I mean, Wai-Kwan, if you have anything you want to add.
Yeah, Zhongshan, because in history, like the Hengshan County, it also includes today's Zhuhai city. So it would be great if we can first identify the exact location of it, but still they have connections still, because the clan members still have a network to connect to the people there. So that might be still possible.
Oh, it's Nam. Yeah, okay.
Nam
Well,
Long.
send us what you have. Yeah.
Yeah, it just hit me that Nam Long is the place where Sun Yat-sen was from. Yeah.
Flo, Yen, and people with similar questions that are quite targeted. What I would suggest, Chrislyn just shared a link in the event chat, and it leads to basically our website and a form that you could fill in. And if you just put all your information, like Flo has done in the chat room, if you put that information into the form, we can give you a free consultation and just see how we can help you out. Just non-committal. We'll just take a look at what you have.
Thanks, Huihan. We have a question from Zach. What is the best site at the moment for searching through the recently released 1950 US Census records?
Right. Well, the indexing is actually going a lot faster than anybody has expected or foreseen. I mean, the key sites would probably be Ancestry or Family Search. Yeah, there's a lot more engagement of volunteers and people who have helped index the 1950 census since it appeared online.
We have a question from Devi. I'd like to start researching my grandma. She's still with us, but she's very reluctant to share information. She can't read or write either, to at least write down her name. Everything is verbal. What is the best way to start?
So last week we had a whole workshop devoted to these types of questions, and everybody who started conducting their family history research, it's very identifiable and recognizable. My personal advice would be, can you visit her in person, first of all? And then if she is willing to speak, because that's already a big thing, if she is willing to say the name and any other information, then essentially just record it. And we can then listen to it. And then any peripheral information that you could give, like that she was born there and there roughly, or if she was the one who migrated to wherever you are now, anything that send that either in an email or the form that Chrislyn sent earlier. Then that's, I would say, the best way to start. And again, we will look at it for free, no commitment, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, like if you know anything about the potential region or just heritage group, like Cantonese or Hokkien, that context can help, especially with her verbal pronunciation of her name, for example. We can reverse engineer what the written Chinese character of her name might be. But also, in general, one thing we've been talking about at last week's events, sometimes just asking about stories about her life, that could help as well. Like instead of, I want to know this person's name and this date and this location, right? Like those data points, instead of just trying to pry out those things, which can feel a little bit like an interrogation sometimes, or, they're like, how am I supposed to remember? I don't know. You can take a more narrative approach, right? And ask more open-ended questions like, what was your favorite food growing up? When you were my age, what were you up to? So open questions like that start to give you a bit more of a picture maybe, and then those individual details can come in the process. Yeah.
What often helps, again, ideally face-to-face, is if you bring pictures and something concrete that you can just ask about, like who's that person? Because also if it's too open and too big of a question to answer, then it's hard for people, especially when they're older, to just give a concise answer. So the other thing is also, if you are recording, yeah, make them feel at ease and relaxed. So basically, don't say, "Oh, tell me what you know now," and I'm gonna press record, and boom, pressure is on. Just sit down, and it could even be over the phone if you have that type of relationship with your grandmother, and then record the whole conversation. It's better just to record more than less. And again, if the audio file of the conversation, then there are ways to just transfer it to us, and then we can just listen to the whole conversation too.
Absolutely. Use your props. Can be photos, can be heirlooms in the house, can even be a dish. A lot of different keys to unlock.
I see from Jiyin a remark that records in the villages in sea are scarce. I'd love to hear your experience on that front because we very often travel to the sea region. So basically Taishan, Kaiping, Anping, Xinhui, those counties. And yeah, I mean, there a lot of it is still saved. Of course, it depends on who you ask and how you ask. But I'd love to hear your experience. If you say you have names on the paternal side through the 1870s, but not sure where to start with the Zupu. It just starts with us knowing what you do know, and then we just give you our assessment of what the next steps could be.
Okay, we have a question from Funster. My grandfather was a paper son. I have his real name, the Chinese character only for the family name, along with a picture of his gravestone and his dialect, also Namlong, but no village name. Is this enough information to try and figure out his village name?
Yeah, so it's quite good that you already have his real name and picture of gravestone, and perhaps you can share that over and we can help take a look. But no village name. Actually, because in the Chinese villages, people, they live together on the basis of their surname. For example, Yi people or Ali people. So perhaps we can go to the villages that their major surname is your surname, and then we can start from there to see if we can list out the possible villages that they might be your ancestral village, and then we can call them one by one to make local phone calls to find out the contact information, and then to talk to the for example, the village leader or the person who compiles the Zupu editor, for example. We can talk to them one by one and to rule out the impossible ones. And if necessary, we might travel to the village to do some field research there. So yeah, so in general, I guess it's worth a start.
Ooh, yes, generation poem. And actually, yeah, for folks who don't know what a generation poem or even what are the things you might be able to find, right, by going to the village and talking to folks, Huihan or Wai-Kwan, do you want to give a quick rundown of that?
Okay. So generation poems are a sequence of characters. It is a poem, but the characters signify each successive generation's name. Clear example, my name is Huihan Li, Li Wei Han. Li is my family name, Wei is my generation name, and Han is my personal name. So every cousin, every male cousin in my paternal line also has that same generation name. So I have a cousin who is called Wei Yung. If our family would still have a generational poem, then the next character after, in my case, Wei, the next character after that would be the generational name of my son. And these generation poems are very important for family history research because it's a way to verify whether you are indeed from that clan, whether your ancestor might be in that tupu. It's just a very important and easy way to verify what your family history is.
We have a question from Pri, who's in Costa Rica. I've seen most of the records are from China, Jamaica, Taiwan, or the USA. Are there any records with connections between China and Latin America, especially Costa Rica?
Yeah, so we're actually really excited about certain Latin American for digitization and indexing projects that we're working on. Costa Rica, yeah, there's been some talks and customers from Costa Rica. But my question to you is if you're from Costa Rica and you have relations with like museums there or other collections, we'd love to get in touch with them. The Latin American collections that we either have or are talking about attaining are in Peru, Cuba, and then the Caribbeans, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Suriname. So those are the countries that we've either already have and are waiting to be indexed, or we're talking to either clan associations or museums or historical associations in those countries.
Also, a question for you all, and how many of you have had a chance to try searching, and typing in the name of your family or your ancestor into the MCR website? Curious, have you found anything through it? Are there things that you're like, okay, this looks promising, but I'm not really sure, is this relevant to my family? Yeah, if you've tried it out so far doing DIY research, go ahead and let us know in the chat. Oh, cool. Amadeus, you've started your family tree, and 300-page Zupu. A lot of names in there. We have a question from Funster. In the 50s, was it common to put the wrong village name on the tombstone?
To my knowledge, that wasn't a conscious move in any case. I mean, yes, we've often seen instances where characters were slightly misspelled. In my experience, that's all incidental rather than a particular period where that was common. But you do see, the wrong village name. So there could be a misspelling. There could also be, very importantly, a change in the administrative jurisdictions. And that is very common, but that's not basically wrong. It's just in the time that that particular village or town name was drawn up, that was still the case. But then maybe 10 years later, borders change, or just the name, like Taishan used to be known as Xining or Suning. So names change as well as borders change. So that maybe that is also something to do with your question. One additional remark to make, because there seem to have been a few who tried out the platform. If there are no matches with the ancestral names that you've inputted, please don't worry, because the situation is that we are adding new records every month, and we're still in the starting phase. Our platform only went up really last year. So we are talking to a lot of collections, digitizing them, indexing them. So if you have had no luck with your search so far, the easiest thing to do is just basically let us know, or to register. And you can also just email us, again, what you do know. And then that is in our records, and we can get back to you proactively from our end if we do have information about your family history. But yeah, the key thing is, don't be discouraged if you haven't had any luck yet, because we're adding data every single month.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for bringing your curiosity to the table, and we're so glad that you could join us today. Thank you so much, Huihan and Wai-Kwan, for your time, for sharing this knowledge with us and taking the time to answer tailored case-by-case questions. Yeah, and just want to encourage you all, press on in your search, even if it feels like, there's not a lot out there, or, people in your family don't really understand or don't really remember. In time, the treasures will rise to the top. So be patient, be persistent. We are all cheering you on and all digging through our own roots in the same ways. So we're really glad you're here, and can't wait to keep journeying together. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Chrislyn, for organizing.
Take care. Bye bye.